trusted podcast for all things California politics. I am your host, Phil, and as always, with me, my trusty co host, the best, the fastest researcher in the West. Camille, are you ready for a jam packed show tonight? Because we have a lot to get to.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
We're just going to jump right into it. There might be more stuff to talk about on this specific episode than the wildfire episode. Because remember, LA's given us a lot of stuff to talk about this year. The wildfires was definitely one of them. But this one, in the span of like 36, 48 hours, there is a lot to talk about, and we're going to try and get to all of it. Also, we just got news literally like minutes before we hopped on that Gavin Newsom is going to give some performative speech or something like that.
It's not the state of the state, right?
It is not a state of the state, even though he's still yet to give one. So we might switch over to that. We have so many videos to get to. So unless you've been living under a rock, LA has been completely taken over by protests and riots and absolute chaos.
Okay, wait, I'm going to correct you. I apologize. LA has not been completely taken over, but a portion. LA. Yeah, there is a portion. LA is huge. Mm-hmm. There is a portion that has been completely taken over. I'm sorry, I don't mean to correct you, but because people are going to be like, I'm in LA. There's no protest going on outside my door. Like, yes, we know.
No, fair correction, because there were people like Alex Michelson who said, and we're going to get to him in a little bit. They were like, well, 99% of the city is actually doing just fine. I'm like, I don't think that's a good argument to make, that still 1% of the city is under like complete chaos and anarchy.
Yeah.
I don't think any part of your city should be under chaos or anarchy. So.
And they keep shutting down the 101, which that does wreak havoc across the whole almost county, for especially at this time of day when everyone's trying to get from here to there. And they did it over the weekend too. And actually my husband was out of town and was affected by it coming home. Like they had to reroute. But, on a Monday evening, that is complete chaos for people trying to get home from work, whichever direction they're going. Shutting down the 101 does cause a lot of chaos. So,
yeah. So if you're in the chat tonight, this is why we do this live, so you can provide commentary. If you guys have comments, thoughts, anything like that, feel free to hop in the chat and let us know. Already somebody said greetings from San Diego. Yeah, what's up? What's up, San Diego? Representing. All right, let's get into this timeline, because in case, like I said, you've been living under a rock, all this stuff happened over the weekend. It escalated. Basically, it started on Friday. There were ICE raids. They reported that 44 people were administratively arrested for alleged immigration violations, with one additional arrest for obstruction. Bill Asaley, who we had talked about previously, is doing this guardian angel program where basically they have figured out if they issue federal arrest warrants, they can, I guess, you pick up illegal immigrants faster than they were before with detainer requests. So by the afternoon, word was getting out that there were ICE raids going on, or that people were getting picked up by ICE. And protests had already started on Friday, and there was already people getting out, pushing back on the federal agents. By the evening, more protesters were starting to clash with the LAPD and federal agents, all out in riot gear. LAPD starts to deploy tear gas. Now, mind you, this is still the first day. And this is important because we're going to get to this stuff in a little bit about what Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have been saying. They're protesting. David Huerta, who is the president of the SEIU union here in California, he was arrested for blocking a federal vehicle. Big player here in California. That is a huge union. By Saturday, protests were continuing. Confrontation started to occur in front of a Home Depot in Paramount. The Department of Homeland Security estimated about 1,000 protesters were at the Paramount Home Depot. Then by the evening, and this is where I think it really started to pick up, is that Donald Trump announced that there was going to be a deployment of 2,000 California National Guard troops to Los Angeles over the objections of Gavin Newsom. And this is really the tensions. So they issued that. They federalized the National Guard. Sunday, basically, everything went into complete chaos. That's when you saw all the burning, looting. We were watching it on Sunday night, and it just looked like you were watching like a Batman movie, and Gotham was tearing itself apart. It was bad. So I think that's generally the timeline. Like you could go into detail of how much it happened. Basically, what I want people who are listening or watching to know is Friday there were ICE raids. People were upset, which I think was also in part because 2 weeks ago San Diego had an ICE raid at Bona Forqueta. So that kind of stirred the pot a little bit, got everyone kind of on edge. Friday turned into Saturday, more protests. Things were getting out of hand. National Guard was federalized by President Trump. Sunday, then it all just popped off, and that's when a lot of the chaos. Yesterday was a lot quieter. Nothing's happened. But as of right now, I'm also keeping an eye. If you guys if you could see how many tabs and like screens I have open right now, I feel like I'm like trying to land a spaceship. I have my iPad open to the local LA news. It looks like right now Karen Bass is announcing there is a curfew right now. This is breaking news. Curfew in downtown LA starting at 8 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m. So,
wow.
Well, we'll see how well that goes. But I think that kind of gives us a good framework to work in, right? And the most important thing is Friday protests started. People were getting in the face of federal law enforcement. Saturday, the National Guard was federalized by President Trump. Then Sunday, things popped off. So I want to make sure everyone's clear on sort of that 1, 2, 3 step. Does that sound like a good summation so far?
Yeah, I thought something started Thursday, but now I'm not trying to correct you again. I thought today was day 5, but I could be very wrong. So
I think it was Friday because we were going into the weekend. Yeah, I feel like it was Friday. Okay. So
regardless, it's happening.
Regardless, it's happened. And
a few days in, it's happening. It's still happening. And like you mentioned, you have a million tabs open and like 4 different screens and a million tabs on each one. And we've been sending each other links all day long, trying to, what is this? Is this true? Is this information? What happened here? And so, yes, this is messy. This is chaotic. There's so much going on. There's so much going on, but there's also so much misinformation coming out. And I think that's why we're kind of trying to break this down, is because we've really been trying to figure out what is true, what is not true. How did we get here? Where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Deep breath.
Yeah, the parameters had to be set up because this weekend, not to let a crisis go to waste, in the words of the infamous Rahm Emanuel, every Democratic, congressional, whatever you call them, showed up because of David Huerta, who we had mentioned is the president of SEI. I want to keep saying AEIOU, like the verb, like the vowels, but that's not it. I'm just going to start calling it SEIOU. And he's very powerful. Unions control California Democrats. They have all the power in California. They pull the puppet strings for all the California Democrats. Him being in jail obviously prompted a lot of people to show up. One of them was California's long time, and I emphasize the long time, serving Congresswoman from the LA area, Auntie Maxine, who wanted to show up and flex her congressional muscle and go see David Huerta. And there's a video of it. It's pretty funny. So we're going to take a quick look at what happened to old Auntie Maxine.
No, I want you to... Hello. Congresswoman Waters. I just came to use my congressional authority to check on David.
Ma'am, we're lobbying securely now to all visitors.
Excuse me, I need to get in.
Contact our public affairs office.
I need to get in.
What are you hoping to do, Congresswoman?
I just want to see David Huerta. Right. 6, 7.
Would a congressperson normally be able to enter the...
Normally, yes.
What is happening here?
Well, there were some of the authorities, I don't know who they were, and I'm trying to get in to see David Huerta, who they have arrested. He is the head of SEIU local, union here. I don't know why he was targeted. I don't know what they're doing with him. I don't know whether they're going to deport him. I want to report back to my caucus about what's happening, but they have.
So, denied by ICE. Nope. They literally slammed the door in her face and said, nope, can't come in. Don't care that you're a congresswoman. Get out of here. I wanted to look into this because she came marching up about this whole congressional authority as if that's like the golden ticket to get in. And the reporter asked, well, is this normal that you have the congressional authority to just walk into an ICE facility? I looked it up. Well, yes, Congress does have the power to oversee executive branches. That's part of their oversight power. Typically, contrary to what Auntie Maxine is saying, it's not normal to just show up and demand to be let in. Most times you actually have to request a visit to an ICE detention facility. And the reason for that is obviously because of safety concerns, logistics, having a congressperson in the ICE detention facility. Not to mention the fact that there is an active like protest going on outside of this facility. So there's a lot of chaos going on. And they were trying to make sure that they protected the officers and the personnel inside the federal building that was holding David Huerta. So it is, while yes, they do have the authority, it is not normally done where you just march up. And there's other instances, if you remember the famous AOC, she's standing like outside with the fence and she's standing in a parking lot and she's crying. She's got all white on and stuff like that. They're like, wait, well, let us in. Well, again, you have to request like, hey, we're going to come and check everything out, not just march up. And I feel like maybe either she didn't know, which is kind of sad because she's been in Congress for about 2,000 years, which would be longer than America's been around.
Makes sense.
She's been there forever. She should know this by now, that you can't just march into an ICE detention facility. Or she is being like purposefully naive, where she's like, oh, they normally let me in. I don't understand why they wouldn't let me in. So Auntie Maxine denied, but she got her little video and she was able to blow that out all over social media and make that look like she's some big freedom fighter. And the only person she cared about is David Huerta. She didn't care about, did you know she didn't care about the other detainees? She wasn't asking about them. She just said, oh, I gotta see David Huerta. I rushed here from DC to make sure my boss is okay. So,
I just need to make sure that his campaign contribution is still going to happen.
Yeah, I gotta make sure that he doesn't forget
make sure
about
the
me.
checks are signed before he gets deported.
Now, Auntie Maxine also went on record, and this has become the new talking point right now, is that I think you had said it in our chat. It's like the gif of like Naked Gun, where he's going like, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And it's like everything's blowing up behind him and stuff like that.
I don't think I said that, but thanks.
Maybe in all the messages between on like our whole team, maybe that's
right.
There was, this is the new talking point, is that, hey, it's not that bad. I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's nothing going on here. Like there's literally nothing going on. So
yeah, people are saying it could be worse. Yet a lot of things could be worse, but it's not the point.
Yeah. So she went back and she said this back when she was in DC, and this was her assessment of how it's going on the ground.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot, nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Don't believe your lying eyes is basically what she's saying. Even though you see on the news and social media, cars being burned, concrete being banged up to turn into rocks, windows smashed, graffiti everywhere. Don't believe your lying eyes. There is no violence going on in LA. And also, I didn't know this, but I guess martial law was declared. I must have missed that.
I did. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, she said martial law is announced in LA, which I don't remember if that's what happened, but sure. Auntie Maxine getting a little fuzzy up in the head in her older age. All right, so Auntie Maxine didn't make it in. She did her performative dance. Hopefully, she still gets the contributions from SEIU, David Huerta, because those are very important. So, on to the next thing, because we do have a lot to cover tonight. Obviously, Sunday night was out of control. I think that was the most like violence and
Wait, I want to go back to that really, really quick.
yeah, go ahead.
David Huerta was arrested for obstructing arrest, correct? Like he wasn't arrested as a possible deportation, but she just wanted to get that little sound clip in, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
David Huerta is an SEIU president, so I would
Right.
assume he's not up. It was because he was blocking a federal vehicle. Like he went down to the protest and was getting up in their face and trying to do something. And you know, when you impede law enforcement, guess what's going to happen? They're going to arrest you. So, people giving love to San Diego in the chat. Yeah, San Diego, what's up? Guess it's a good thing the Dodgers are down here playing the Padres this week, because it would be pretty bad on the 101 if they were protesting and you were trying to get to a Dodger game.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the police chief. Police chief had a press conference on Sunday night, and I watched a little bit of it. It was 22 minutes long, but I found a smaller clip of it. And apologies to people that we're kind of moving quickly, it feels like, in this episode, but there's like so much video stuff we have to get to because it's just a lot. Like if you saw the videos that we were sending each other that didn't make it, there's probably like 2 times as many videos that didn't make it. All right, so this is the LAPD chief, Jim McConnell, giving a press conference about what is going on Sunday night. Meanwhile, you can see what's going on in the background while he's giving this. So we will watch and give our comments.
So I want to just take an opportunity to speak directly to the people of Los Angeles, clarify LAPD's roles and the events that have been playing out over these past couple of days. This includes our response to protests, our public safety responsibilities, and recent claims that you've seen made by some federal officials. Today I met with Governor Newsom, Mayor Bass, U.S. Attorney General of the Central District of California, Bill Aseli, and ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons. Let me begin by reaffirming a core principle. The LAPD supports and protects the First Amendment right to free speech. In recent days, many protests across the city have been peaceful, and we thank the community for expressing their views and their frustration in a responsible manner. However, when peaceful demonstrations devolve into acts of vandalism or violence, especially violence directed at innocent people, law enforcement officers, and others, we must respond firmly. An act of violence, whether toward officers, demonstrators, or the public, will be met with swift and lawful action. Our goal is to maintain order without escalating conflict and to protect everybody's right to safety. Recent public statements have misrepresented LAPD's action from an incident the other night. Specifically, there was a claim that LAPD delayed responding to a federal officer's request for assistance by more than 2 hours. When we heard that, I think anybody who's a police officer couldn't believe it, and certainly anyone with LAPD couldn't imagine how that would happen. Well, it didn't happen, and I just want to go into that just a little bit. LAPD was not given advance notice that the federal operations would occur in that area. As a result, we were not pre-positioned to respond immediately to unrest related to those actions.
I want to take a minute right there to bring up a point. He is complaining that the federal authorities did not alert them that they were going to conduct an ICE raid, while Los Angeles City, as of just last year, I think December, reproclaim that they are a sanctuary city and that law enforcement is not supposed to aid in any way any sort of ICE raids or anything like that. So he's mad you didn't give us the heads up, but also we're not supposed to help you do anything.
Right.
So
Right. I
doesn't seem
did
like you
catch
can have
that.
it doesn't seem like you can have it both ways. You can't be a city where you say, well, our local law enforcement's not going to work with you and we're going to disregard everything. But also we're kind of miffed that you didn't tell us you were going to do this. So
Once the call for assistance came in, LAPD responded within 38 minutes. And that sounds like a long time, but I'll tell you why that is. The response was impacted by traffic, crowd density in the area with unrest occurring, hazardous conditions caused by tear gas that was previously deployed by federal agents at that location. Many of our officers, because it was put together in a mobile field force configuration without advance notice, were not equipped with gas masks. But despite these challenges, we moved in quickly and as safely as possible. At no point did LAPD ignore or intentionally delay any request for help. I also want to be unequivocally clear. The Los Angeles Police Department does not participate in or coordinate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement on civil immigration enforcement. We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough for the people in our community who have high levels of anxiety.
So he just reiterates, we don't coordinate with them, but we're upset that you didn't coordinate with us.
yes.
Okay.
He's just to clarify, he's upset that they didn't tell him, but he also says, just to be clear, we don't work with the federal authorities and we don't coordinate. So how would you coordinate with the federal authorities under sanctuary city law, but also get notified?
Yeah, I do want to say I completely understand that this is two separate issues. There is, they are the local and the ICE is federal. I 100% get that. But yes, he does keep clarifying, we don't work with them. Fine. That's fine. But don't be upset when they don't work with you. They had the authority to come in for the federal issue. And I'm not upset at the delayed response because I actually completely understand that. Like, I haven't watched this video, but when he is starting to explain, my first thought was, well, we already know LA traffic's really bad. Now add all this onto it. Yes, it's going to be double, triple worse. So of course, I expect the response time is going to be quite delayed. I get that. That makes perfect sense. But it's just this whole placing blame. We don't coordinate with them. I want to reiterate, we don't coordinate with them. We don't work with them. We don't assist them. But how dare they not give us a heads up so that we can coordinate with them? That's where I'm like, no, that doesn't.
No. Pushing the blame on everyone else. Let's keep going.
About this issue that we want everybody to believe and be able to call the LAPD in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business. On the other hand, however, when a law enforcement agency, any agency...
And if you look in the back, it looks very peaceful. Like, things are going really well. They're shooting non-lethals at citizens. So.
Totally normal to shut down the streets of LA and just vandalize things.
Requests emergency assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will answer every legitimate call for help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency, accountability, and treating every Angelino with respect, regardless of their immigration status. Our job is not to divide communities or politicize law enforcement. Our job is simply to keep everyone safe. I want to express my sincere appreciation to all of our officers and partner agencies for their dedication and professionalism during these very challenging times. Their commitment to upholding the law, even in the face of hostility, is a reflection of the values that we...
I'm sorry. I've was watching this live, I did not catch the giant fireball that just went right through. You saw that. I was like, whoa, what was that?
It's not funny. It's not funny. That is okay. I don't think that's funny. I am laughing because they were all trying to claim everything was peaceful, and that's why I'm laughing, because as they're up there being like, this is fine, everything's fine, nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah, it's quite literally a good meme of like, Chief McDonald says everything's going well. Oh, that tree just blew up in the background. Wonder what happened there. Yeah, I didn't catch that the first time.
That is not okay.
Okay. Yeah, things look like they're going great.
That we stand for. We're working together to keep everyone safe, our officers and the public alike, and this remains our top priority. We'll continue to support peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity.
Fireworks show.
What's that?
Fireworks show at the end there.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of fireworks. If you watched on Sunday night, they were tossing around. There was a part when we were watching it live, and I was trying to find it, but I think it might have been too long of a clip. There was a part where the LAPD chief was asked a question by the press, and they asked like, well, you know, how is it going? What's the status? And something, and are you guys able to handle this? And his honest response was, no, we were overwhelmed, in that thick, like, Massachusetts accent. He talks about like, oh, we were overwhelmed. It was too much for us. And then the next question was, well, why don't you reach out to the president and ask for help from the National Guard? Oh, no, we're fine. We don't need help from the National Guard. We're good. Everything's under control. It's like, you just admitted 2 minutes ago you're completely overwhelmed. You're outmanned. You can't control the situation. And now he's saying, well, we don't need the National Guard. What do we need the National Guard for? And my theory, as soon as I heard that, was this guy is quite literally playing politics with this. He knows what happened to the LA Fire Department chief. Is she spoke out. She spoke up for herself. You know, he could have said, we're overwhelmed. I disagree with the mayor. I think we need as much help as possible. And she got fired for speaking up about what happened. He played it very politically, where he did not want to say, yeah, I would accept help from President Trump and the National Guard and maybe the Marines or whatever. He knew that if he did that, he's getting fired, which is sad and frustrating, because this guy is playing politics just to keep his job, while he has officers out there on the ground facing all of this. He's putting these officers in danger of their lives and injury, risk of injury, anything like that, for politics. And that's what's probably the most disturbing to me, is that he quite literally danced around that subject and won't ask for help because he wants to keep his job. Did you get that feeling as well?
Yes.
Kind of danced around everything.
I did exactly that. Like suddenly he realized what he said, and he kind of had to backtrack, or he knew he would be out of a job.
Yeah. It's
I just want to say hi, evident. Chat. The chat is going crazy. So hi, thank you everybody who's joining us on this very messy topic.
Somebody said he definitely has an East Coast. Yeah, I first thought it was Boston. It's, as someone who grew up in Jersey, it's not a New Jersey accent. It's definitely more of a Massachusetts, New England accent. So yeah, it's frustrating that he played politics with it. He won't ask for help. Speaking of someone who always likes to put the blame on somebody else, Mayor Karen Bass went on the news and figured out a way to put the blame on everyone else but herself for the fact that downtown, I don't want to say the city, downtown was devolving into complete chaos and anarchy. So this was her on CNN. We'll watch that. If you have any comments, we can just pause it.
Now to Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Hi, Mayor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
Hi. So what are you and
on.
your police force? I know how busy you are preparing for the hours ahead. What are you expecting on that front?
Well, I just have to say that if you dial back time and go to Friday, If immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night. I will tell you that it is peaceful now, but we do not know where and when the next raids will be. That is the concern, because people in the city have a rapid response network. If they see ICE, they go out and they protest. And so it's just a recipe for...
Again, you made your bed. Now you have to lie in it. You passed this law or this ordinance in LA where you're a sanctuary city and you don't coordinate with ICE, and now you're mad that ICE isn't telling you where they're going to be. So I don't know what they want. They can't make up their mind. They're talking out both sides. They want to know where ICE is so they can go assist them, but they also don't want to coordinate with ICE. I don't know.
But she says, then they go out and protest. Everyone has a right to peaceful protest. I support your right to peaceful protest. You can take side with any issue that you want and go out and protest it. And I am 100% okay with that, regardless if I believe in your stance or not. But she says it knowing these aren't protesters. These are rioters. Not everybody. I don't want to say that everybody that went out is a rioter. I don't want to say that everyone's breaking the law, but she's saying we need to know so that we can know if there's going to be protesters. Well, if they stuck to peaceful protesters, there wouldn't be an issue, but she knows they're rioting. And she's not saying the words out loud, but she's like, we want to know because we know that people are going to go insane, start ish. And there's no excuse. There's no excuse for riots. Stick to the law. I found some post, like I was looking for something else on Facebook today and was like searching through my stuff. And I found some posts from 2016 where I was like, I didn't want to vote for Donald Trump. So I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I did not go and throw bricks at police cars to make my point. I simply did not vote for him. It was very simple. Things don't have to get violent, especially in situations like this, because this is helping nothing. You guys are destroying not an entire city, but you're destroying blocks. You're destroying police cars. Waymo, what does Waymo have to are they helping ICE? Anyway, I'm going to stop ranting because I know we have much to get to.
I'm keeping an eye on Newsom as well. Like we expected, he's late. So
yeah,
which is
for pandemonium that is completely unnecessary. Nothing was happening here. Los Angeles was peaceful before Friday. When we find out when and where the other raids are going to happen, that will determine how the police respond.
Mayor Bassett's Wolf Blitzer here in the Situation Room as well. The state of California, as you well know, is expected to file a formal lawsuit over President Trump's deployment of the National Guard, perhaps as early as today.
Which, breaking news as of like 2 hours ago, the judge denied and threw out. So just an update for everybody.
Spoiler alert, lawsuit thrown out.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, that lawsuit was thrown out. So that was fast. But they used taxpayer money to fund the lawsuit.
Your own police chief says the level of violence he's seeing in Los Angeles is, quote, disgusting. So why not welcome more boots on the ground?
Well, no, I think the issue here is state power and state sovereignty. And so we do not believe, and what the governor is doing is separate from what's happening in the city. But what was the reason that the president had to take the power from the governor and federalize the National Guard? The night before this action was taken, there was a protest that got a little unruly late at
A little unruly. I had done a video, I think it was Saturday, showing how bad it got. And that was Saturday. This was before Sunday, before it got really bad. So for her to say, it got a little unruly, it was pretty out of control on Friday.
Late at night, it was 100 people. 27 people were arrested. There wasn't a reason for this. That is like the concern.
Almost 30% of the people, 100 people, 27 got arrested. So 27% of the protest were arrested. That's a big chunk of a little.
Yeah.
That's nearly
that's a
third.
lot of people causing problems to be 30% of the people that were there. And I think it wasn't 100 people. I think it was closer to like 1,000 people.
Well, okay, 27 of 1,000. Sorry. I was just, if it was truly 100 people and then she says 27 of them were arrested, that's a big chunk, But if it was 1,000 people, okay, it's a much smaller number.
Well, if she's saying it's 30 of 100, that's still bad. I mean, that's not proving her point. She's
exactly.
Like you're saying that, it makes the point of 30% of these protesters were out of control and had to be arrested. It's not a good look.
And if there was, the way it happens traditionally is that requests are made on the local level of the governor to send National Guard troops. No request came from the city of Los Angeles. What has happened now is an entirely different situation.
And speaking of now, there are also, about 500 active duty U.S. Marines.
This is a lot happened in 24 hours, and it looked like it was descending into out of control chaos. Well, I guess chaos is naturally out of control, but spreading chaos really quickly. And if you're President Trump, you don't want 2020 to happen all over again, like the George Floyd riots and the Summer of Love. And you have federal agents who are being attacked. LAPD wasn't doing what they weren't responding as quickly or doing as much. So his duty, and looking at it from President Trump's perspective, is I have to protect federal troops and federal law enforcement. I'm the commander in chief of these federal forces and the federal building. I have to protect them. So I'm going to call up the National Guard because we need help. They're right in the middle of downtown. Things are getting out of hand. I'm not sure, based on how things were going Friday into Saturday, that Newsom or Karen Bass had control of the situation. And if I was the president and I wanted to nip it in the bud right away, I could understand why he federalized so quickly without asking for Gavin Newsom's permission, which he's allowed to do, which is why his lawsuit was kicked out immediately. President is allowed to federalize the National Guard if he needs to for protection of any federal property or federal law enforcement in a supportive role. It's been done before. JFK did it when it was integration in the South. I think it was George Wallace was the governor back then. He just federalized the National Guard and integrated schools. LBJ did it for the Selma marches. It was done in 1992 by George Herbert Walker Bush, Papa Bush, during the LA riots. So it's been done before. I think the only time it was done without permission was JFK with integration, George Wallace. Other times they were asked, they asked for that help. But regardless, I can see why President Trump jumped on it right away, because he's seen how bad it can get in LA. He's seen how these riots can get out of hand. They are not organic as much as people want to pretend they are all organic. They're very organized in the sense of people descend upon these places, know exactly what they're doing. They are professional agitators, and he wanted to kind of nip it in the bud right away. But the National Guard isn't actually out there on the streets. That's the other thing as well. So even though President Trump is saying, well, it's not calming down until I send in the National Guard is not out there in the streets. It's the LAPD and the county sheriff and all that. They're out there kind of butting heads with the protesters. National Guard is just protecting the ICE facility. So just to clarify that as well, there is this claim that the National Guard is quelling it, or it's getting better because of the National Guard. They're just there to protect this. So just to clarify, I understand why he did it and why he had to do it without their permission, because they wouldn't do it anyway. And anything that Trump says, they're going to do the opposite. So if he asked for National Guard help, they would say no, and then things would get out of hand and put his federal employees in danger. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm going to say something insane.
Oh, gosh.
I think that Newsom wouldn't have called or won't call because of his pride and how much he hates Trump. I think he would rather let everything get out of control than actually admit that he needs to call Trump and ask for help.
Say that again?
I think Newsom would refuse to call Trump and ask for help out of pride and out of his hate for Trump. Like, I think he would never want to admit that he let California down in a sense, and wasn't able to stop this on his own, and two, that he needed to call Trump and request help from Trump, because he really wants to present that he has everything under control. He's above Trump. He's better than Trump. Trump's the enemy. And, Trump is the end all be all for everything that's horrific. And Newsom is our savior. And so if he had to actually,
Newsom,
is he live?
He is live right now. So we'll watch a couple minutes. I don't want to watch the rest of the episodes, but let's watch a couple of what Newsom has to say.
Congress is nowhere to be found. Speaker Johnson has completely abdicated that responsibility. The rule of law has increasingly been given way to the rule of Don. The founding fathers, they didn't live and die to see this kind of moment. It's time for all of us to stand up. Justice Brandeis, you said it best. In a democracy, the most important office, with all due respect, Mr. President, is not the presidency, and it's certainly not governor. The most important office is office of citizen. At this moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please do it peacefully. I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
Was that it? Oh, okay. That's it. That was a short little address from Gavin Newsom that just popped in live. This is sometimes why we do the show live. So things like this. Yeah, that's it. It's over.
Okay.
Literally a couple minutes. All right. Well, I wanted to say he said something about the office of citizen, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant. And I may get a little upset about this, but granted, he does that. He gets me agitated. Gavin Newsom in California have no, and I emphasize no room to talk about what is the most important office and call it the office of the citizen, as if democracy is everything that is the most important thing, and that democracy should be held up above everything else. This is the state where Prop 36, just this past year, passed by an overwhelming majority, where every single county in California, every single 50 plus counties voted for Prop 36. You would be hard pressed to find any issue or proposition where you're going to get all the counties of California to agree on something. The legislature and Gavin Newsom in the budget he proposed has no funding for Prop 36. None. They were just like, we're not going to fund it. And we know that he hated Prop 36 from the beginning. He actively campaigned against Prop 36, and he was against it. He introduced every poison pill law he could to stop Prop 36 from going into effect. So first off, is he's going to sit here and pretend that the office of the citizen is the most important. He would not even listen to the wants and needs of his own citizenry here in California. Second, this notion that you are standing up to Trump as if it's like this big resistance. You lost the election. Your party lost the election by a landslide, right? And it was Trump won every single swing state on the economy. And number two, big number two, was immigration, and that he was going to enforce immigration laws and do mass deportation. That is what the American people wanted. And California, for some reason, is taking that voice and that vote away from the American people and saying, I'm not going to listen to you. We're not going to enforce immigration. We're not going to do any deportations. We're going to thumb our nose. We don't care if the rest of the country elected a president who is in support of mass deportation and stricter enforcement of immigration laws. We don't care. We are not going to listen to the voice of the people. Democracy doesn't matter when it doesn't fit our narrative. So I'm sorry. I'm going to call a big fat bullshit on him saying that this is the office of the citizen is the most powerful in all of the land. It's, you don't listen to citizens anyway. So rant over. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. He really doesn't take the citizens into account. It's very much just his way. I mean, we won't, but we could rehash so many things where it really is just about him.
Mm-hmm. And his whole argument of democracy at a crossroads. So I think if you look at in the light that I just said, where democracy at, yeah, it looks like California, it just doesn't want to listen to what the people want. And that people in California, for some reason, and I'm still trying to put my finger on it, there's probably numerous reasons. And if you're in the chat, throw up your theories as to why this is such a third rail that they don't want to touch illegal immigration. It's almost to the point now where you almost want to look these Democratic officials in the eye and go, do you believe in deportation at all? Like, do you believe in deportation of anyone? Just be honest. Like, I know that you say violent felons and all that stuff because it pulls well with voters. Just be honest. Do you believe in deportation at all? Because that's what it's starting to seem like, and they're completely on the wrong side of this issue based on 2024. There was a CNN poll in a different video I saw where at 2020, they polled a whole bunch of people and it said, favorability of illegal immigrants here in the country. And it was like plus 20. So plus 20 in favor of illegal immigrants who are here in the country. Now in 2024, it's -6. Mm-hmm. So the shift is not in Democrats' favor at all on immigration, and them thumbing their nose at ICE and federal enforcement and all of this, it's only making it much worse. So did you have any other thought? We have a couple more videos I wanted to get to.
Go ahead.
So, okay. Well, while we're on the topic of Gavin, here's what he said the other day, speaking in hyperbolic terms about what's going on.
And the worst part, he completely lied. He said in a tweet that everything's now safe, everything's fine. Is that the case, Mr. Trump? He said because he deployed the National Guard. The Guard hadn't even been deployed when he said this. It's Orwellian. Simply lying to people. Unconstitutional, illegal act. His mess. We're trying to clean it up.
I had tweeted this out before. Was it today or yesterday? Sort of the same video. Same kind of vein about democracy. If there's anyone who needs to take a seat with that whole authoritarian language, it is absolutely Gavin Newsom. It wasn't too long ago, Mr. Newsom, old noodles, if you remember, you were telling people they could not exercise their First Amendment right to go to church not too long ago. And you lost at the Supreme Court on that issue.
And you were asked, he asked us to tattletale on our neighbors who broke these rules.
He wanted you to tattle. He wanted you to become the secret police for him. He told you how many family members you could celebrate the holidays with, or even if you could celebrate the holidays with your family members. Thanksgiving, Christmas, he decided whether or not you could do that. Closed businesses arbitrarily based on this whole map of color coding, whatever the heck he wanted to do. Closed beaches, which we then found out that beaches are great because of the vitamin D and fresh air and people getting exercise. Closed beaches, arrested people, wouldn't allow people to go to skate parks. Like, let's pump the brakes with the authoritarian language here, Gavin Newsom, because you calling him authoritarian for just trying to protect federal property is kind of laughable. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, he's trying to show people that he somehow has the qualifications to be president. And I don't know. It is funny to me how much he can hate Trump, and he has every right to hate Trump. But it's funny to me how much he tears Trump down, because I just want to like shake his shoulders and be like, Newsom, you're not going up against him in 2028. Like, you're fighting the wrong fight. I know you want to be president, and I know that this is what everything that you're doing is now based on that, but Trump is not going to be your competition come 2028. So pick a fight with someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, why don't the best campaign he can run is just fix California, I guess.
Yeah.
Just like do the things that help California.
And literally, yeah, exactly. He could be like, I'm not doing it Trump's way, and look at me, look what I did. And like, I think if we all actually saw that happen, we'd be like, wait, hold on, look what he did. And in spite of Trump being president, he really turned California around without Trump. And I mean, I think you and I, even as much as we sit here and hate on Newsom, we'd be like, wait a second, who is this man who can do this? If he can do this for California of all states, certainly what could he do for America?
Yeah. I mean, politics is all about track record. And he has a horrible track record.
He does have a horrible track record, so he's got to quickly turn that around.
I mean, he's getting plenty of nice snapshots and stuff like that. I know he was begging Tom Homan to come and arrest him, which I was like, stop. We all know you want to be arrested because you think you're going to get the cool mugshot like Trump got, but it doesn't work like that. So no one will think you're cool if you get a mugshot for doing what you're doing. All right. Couple more videos I want to get to before we end for tonight. We actually did a pretty good job. We're still on time, making good time. Chat is lively. People are hanging out. Love it.
Hi, chat.
If you guys have any questions or comments, let us know. A couple more videos. Alex Michelson, who we met, nice guy. He's for. Is it Fox LA 11 or something like that? No, that's Bill Malugin.
Yeah, he has. I forget the name of his show. I'm such a fan of his, and I'm suddenly can't like. I truly believe that he's usually very fair and balanced reporting, and I can't think of the name of his show.
I can't think of it either, but he's up there with like Ashley Zavala. If you're looking for like local California reporters who are a good follow on X, Alex Michelson won. Ashley Zavala is the best when it comes to calling out Sacramento. So there are several who are good. But anyway, this was Alex.
This is the issue? Is that the name of the show? This is the issue?
Is that what it is? This is the issue? I don't know.
I apologize. Not that he's going to see this, but I apologize because I actually am a fan.
He may be on the chat right now, Alex, if you're on the chat. Maybe he's a fan of the show. All right. We're going to watch this video. And like I said, he's a nice guy, and he doesn't usually lose his cool, but this is an interesting video.
Those things occurred. What you're seeing is not spontaneous in any event. It's just not. And law enforcement on the ground, fully uniformed law enforcement, can't say that. And that's the unfortunate circumstance that we're seeing. This could have been stopped. It wasn't stopped because of politically motivated agendas. And at the end of the day,
I don't see why it can't be stopped right now. I mean, you got all these people out there, and we see what's happening, and every station's showing this happening, and they're smashing up rocks, and they're setting fires on the street, and yet everybody's allowed to just wander and do their thing. And yet, if our parking meter goes 2 minutes too long, there's a ticket right there. How does that happen? I mean, who are we protecting? What are our priorities right now as a society that this guy's allowed to hack the sidewalk, but you know, God forbid, I'm 2 minutes late on my parking meter?
You are so funny. This should be ended right now. And so I would look at the chief of police of Los Angeles, and I would look at the sheriff of LA County, and I would ask those two people those very serious questions, because this could be ended right now. It's not being ended right now, and the people deserve better. This is much broader than just law enforcement community that are under attack that deserve better. The people of LA County, the people of the city of Los Angeles deserve better. Look at what you're seeing. This looks like a third world country right now, what I'm seeing on your screen. And so should this be ended? Can it be ended? Absolutely. Is it? No.
Well, there will be those who will agree with you and those who will disagree with you on the National Guard and the Marines and how that all happened. But my question in general, a lot of people are watching this and have great sympathy for law enforcement and the police officers and sheriff's deputies that are there on the ground. Not sure why this crowd's moving like they are, but at the moment. So my point is, there are people who, despite their political views, do have a sympathy for law enforcement doing a very difficult job over these 4 days. How can people help out if they want to, non-politically at all, they just want to help out law enforcement?
Yeah, Christine, it's a great question. And at the end of the day, you have to take politics out of this entire scenario. The people of Los Angeles, if they want to help, need to call on their elected officials and ask for them to support their troops on the ground, to support their local law enforcement, and make this stop immediately. This has nothing to do with politics, but politics, unfortunately, has immersed itself into the daily operational command and control structure and response of law enforcement. That needs to end. If they want this to end, they need to call on their local officials and ask for them to support their law enforcement officers and bring this to an end immediately, because if not, there will be more destruction to businesses and more injuries to innocent people who are just trying to survive every single day.
Right, and innocent businesses that have been vandalized tonight. And I mean, literally what we were just looking at together was somebody taking a hammer to the sidewalk to then be able to get rocks in their bag to throw at law enforcement. That's what we're watching. I mean, that's what's happening right now, live on our cameras. That LAPD headquarters is watching too. That all the different law enforcement agencies that are down there are watching. That's what's going on. And so let's be clear. And the governor of California told me yesterday, and the mayor of Los Angeles told me yesterday, that violence is not okay, that we're not going to accept this sort of thing, that we need to crack down on these thugs and anarchists, and idiots is the word that the governor used. So it's happening now. So when are we going to crack down? What's the time to make that call?
That's a great point.
There's a fire now that's being set.
It is, and this is not the first time. This is called arson. This is a felony. This is an arson, okay? Every single police officer and deputy sheriff right now wants this to end. Because they swear to uphold the peace. They swear to put their lives on the line so that this does not continue.
So this is Alex Michelson of Fox LA. Like I said, he's a pretty even keel guy, but for him to get that fired up shows you how there's a lot of people who I think are probably fed up with this stuff. And I don't know if I brought this up, but I just think that, in my opinion, you can agree with me or not, I honestly think this is doing the opposite effect of whatever they think they were doing. I think if you're trying to be the resistance or these folk heroes out there, these resistance heroes, to fight Trump and get the people on your side, I think you've done quite literally the opposite and made more people back Trump on this. And I think it's backfired completely. When people like Alex Michelson are getting that upset live on air about what people are doing to a city, I think you're losing the plot. And I think more people are looking at this going, yeah, this is what we voted for. We voted for this, and you guys are going nuts and throwing temper tantrums. We don't care. And you're going to make it worse. If you're the Democrats and you're a leftist or you're on that side, I think you're making it worse, because when you create this chaos, you give the fodder for a strong man to come in. And Trump is a strong man. Let's just admit Trump is the strong man that people voted for to get this done. But if you keep doing this and you keep going down this path, you may be shocked at the next strongman who comes in after Donald Trump. So, I think they're on the wrong side of this, and this is not helping. When you're losing people like Alex Michelson, who's a nice guy, he's a fair guy, but very, very professional. So for him to lose it on air is, and I wouldn't say lose it. I mean, lose it means he was like going nuts. I would say,
Yeah, he was.
He was emotional, I should say.
Right, exactly. Yeah, for someone who's usually just very even tempered, that there was a little bit of you could hear the passion in his voice. Yeah, so the Instagram account Street People of Los Angeles has obviously been sharing a lot of videos of stuff going on, and one of the videos they shared yesterday was a media van that was parked, and people were smashing it up. Spray painting it, throwing bricks at it, kicking it, and just destroying it. And but then you see on the van, it's Telemundo. Like, this is the mainstream media that tends to be on the side of the people that are protesting. This is the mainstream media that is in Spanish. They're protesting against. They're waving the Mexico flag while protesting against people being sent back to Mexico. They're trying to proclaim how wonderful Mexico is while saying, don't send anyone back there. How dare you? And now we're going to smash in this van in Spanish that is trying to report to the Spanish speaking people on what is going on. And it's like, do you not see what you're doing here? It's not helping get your message out. That's kind of preventing getting your message out, in fact.
Yeah. You're harming the people who are probably trying to help you the most and get your message out. But the Iceman brought up in the chat, I brought this up in other videos, we all let this happen by ignoring immigration reform for decades. And this is like where like the humanitarian in me, this is where the conflict is for me personally, is that on the humanitarian side, I feel bad for people who get swept up in this. Maybe they're not felons. Maybe they're not like the people who they were going after, who were convicted violent felons, sexual offenders, drug offenders, cartel members, people who get swept up in this.
Yeah.
The humanitarian side of me. But it still doesn't change my basic principle of, well, the law is the law. Like, this is the law. Like, I don't, there's no emotional sob story that's going to make me go, yeah, okay, you can ignore this law. Like, the constant thing that people always say is, oh, well, they came here for a better life and that's what they wanted, so just let them have it. Like, why do you care about it? What do you care? It's like, well, everybody wants a better life. I'd love to have a brand new Range Rover. Doesn't mean I can walk into a dealership and drive off without paying for one. Like, that's not how it works. Like, there are laws, and either we are a country of laws or we're not. And I'm not saying our immigration system is 100% perfect and we nailed it. There could be reform, sure. Could we make it easier for people to become legal citizens? Maybe that would disincentivize people from crossing the border and being illegal in the first place. But Democrats love to go out there and talk about all this stuff, and they were empowered several times between 2008, when Barack Obama was elected by a landslide, mind you, and had the mandate of the world. They didn't do anything. He was elected twice. You had Joe Biden in there with the auto pen. They could have signed off on anything. You didn't do anything. So, okay, the law is the law right now, and you got to abide by the law. So that's sort of where I am. Like, you can be both, I guess you can say. You can feel sad for the people because this is a hard thing to go through. But on this other side, you're like, but you sort of knew this was the law. Like, you knew when you came, you were already breaking the law to begin with. So I don't know. You have any thoughts about the conflict of being a humanitarian?
I do. Yes. We are human, and we are capable of feeling multiple things at once, holding multiple opinions at once. And I agree. We absolutely need immigration reform. People do come here for a better life that are not trying to come here and wreak havoc. Absolutely. We were discussing earlier, which we discussed on the podcast last week, the week before, about the ICE raids that happened near you in San Diego at the restaurant. I don't know if, besides crossing the border illegally, if the restaurant workers committed any other crimes or any crimes while here. As far as I know, they didn't. So we'll just call them innocent people for the sake of this discussion. So these innocent workers came here for a better life, but then they end up working for this restaurant owner who is literally taking advantage of them as slave labor and making them work long hours without breaks and low pay. I think it was like under the table is how he kind of managed that. And if people are not going to come here legally, then we are going to get a lot of situations like that. The owner did get arrested, as we discussed, and that's an abusive situation. We don't want that for people. That's not compassionate. That's not giving them a better life. And then I think that they come here and they get in it, and it's like they probably think this is good of a situation as they're going to get, and then they're afraid to get out of that situation because then they're afraid to just get deported. And so they stay in that situation where, again, they're literally slave labor. We've talked about when we had the episode with Jorge Ventura and, a lot of the cartel sneaking people in and stuff, and how they end up being like traffickers on these marijuana farms under horrible conditions and stuff. If we have legal migration, we can prevent so much of this. And that's the compassionate way to go. Like, it's not evil. It's not evil of us to want things to go legally. It's not evil of us for people to want people to be able to migrate here and still have a better life and have, and follow the law like the rest of us. It's like, yes, come here legally, follow the rules, and let's get you in the schools and in the jobs and for a better life. 100%. I am all for that. But unfortunately, when we have these under the table situations, these marijuana farming situations, we're ending up with a lot of trafficking. We're ending up with slave labor. We're ending up with sex trafficking. It's a nightmare. And no, reform and all the legal stuff isn't going to 100% cut all that out. But we could avoid a lot of this if we just get some rules and follow some rules.
Yeah. Not to make light of the situation. I mean, as someone like myself who has been deported from a country, I know the feeling of being deported from a country. So there might be a lot of new viewers on here who don't know the story of how I got deported from Mexico. That may be for another time. For all you new listeners and people watching, I got deported from Mexico. So it's a running joke in our friends. Recently, wasn't it just a couple months ago? So again, case in point, if you don't follow the rules and do what you're supposed to in Mexico, they will deport you. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it is a
but yeah, but even they have rules to follow. Like, you don't just get to go into their land without your proper identification in the process. And you learned that by accident very quickly.
Yeah. You learn next time, bring your passport. Somebody said, perhaps we can use some immigration reform. However, when we are also going to hold these countries accountable to take care of their citizens so they don't feel like they have to flee here. I don't want to go down the road of helping. I don't want to go down the road where we feel like we have to make these countries better so that they don't come here. Like, that's something they have to do. And I think reform has to be, we have to be stricter in sort of deportations. I think it has to be a little bit of both, carrot and stick, of like, if you're here illegally, there's a faster process to get deported, almost a no nonsense. And this is me just spouting off and brainstorming. But I also think we could probably reform the process to become a legal citizen a little bit better. We had a family member who went through getting his green card, and it took a long time and a lot of money, and it's very confusing. There's a lot of paperwork. So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that can be done to reform and make the process easier, because a lot of people who want to come here are like, well, I can't afford to become a citizen, so I'm just going to come here illegally. So I think it's a little bit of both that you have to do. I just think it's not perfect, knowing from personal experience that it's not perfect and it's not easy. Yeah, I think when you become a citizen, somebody brought up there are reasons they should apply for citizenship. They learn some English and other things to help them be. I think you have to learn English, don't you? You have to know English to become a citizen of America. I
I
thought
don't,
so.
I don't know.
I think the test is in English. So,
True. Maybe.
and then you have to learn. I feel like a lot of
Well, I
immigrants.
just, and I know this is the point of tonight's episode, but on that, I don't mean to like shush anybody up in the chat or anything, but why is it America's responsibility to like reform all these other countries? And something I think that America did wrong in general is that when I don't know, whenever like Christian society decided that we need to go and be missionaries in the world and westernize everything, I think countries can be great without being America. They don't need to be us. They can have their ways with, there's obviously a few things that they shouldn't have, but I think that they can be them and their culture and without being westernized, if that makes sense. Like we don't need to kind of like make every other country America for them to want to stay, and nor should it be our responsibility to do that. I think that we need to respect that other countries have different ways of doing things. I don't know if I'm making sense, and we don't really have a whole lot of time, but I just like, I grew up in a Christian home, and I've read a lot of like missionary work. And I feel like one of the things that a lot of missionaries did was like go in and be like, okay, we need to teach these people to be American. And it's like, that's not the answer. And I'm not even saying that the person in the chat said that, but I just feel like we don't need to make them like us. We need to appreciate cultural differences and different countries' differences, and that not our way of doing things works for everybody else.
Yeah, I also realize we're $40 trillion in debt. So
yeah,
any
true.
idea of reforming
True.
else?
Everything we do doesn't work for us. we got problems.
We're not doing so well on our own. So yeah.
I mean, even without immigration, we have a lot of crime, a lot of like, we have our debt, we have a lot of crime, we have all kinds of issues we need to reform. And so,
yeah. All right. So this last video, I had kind of briefly alluded to the politicians going back and forth is, you have Karen Bass who's posturing, and you have Newsom's who posturing, and then you have President Trump in the White House and all this. And it's a lot of like, it's just kind of this staring contest, for a lack of a term. It's like one big pissing match between them all. And the thing that kind of upsets me, and people, maybe Alex Michelson alluded to it a little bit, is really the citizens and the people of LA are the ones who are getting screwed. And that's the saddest part of all this, is that, whether he did federalize too early, or he asked for help, or he wasn't supposed to, and they're getting back and forth. And at the end of the day, like, you look at downtown LA and businesses are burned to the ground. People are suffering. Like, this is bad. It's kind of like the summer of love, of how much property was damaged, how many businesses were destroyed because of that. And these politicians are fighting over nonsense and posturing, and it's the people who get hurt. So I want to put this together. Obviously, when LAPD is focused solely on the protesters, because they were everywhere on Sunday night and a little bit on Monday night too, there's a lack of personnel to take care of a lot of other things going on. And obviously bad actors and people took advantage of the situation. And we're going to watch a quick little video, and then we'll wrap up the show. So if you give it a second. Loading. No.
Stay right here.
Cameras and neighbors caused a great one. Has it ever happened before? No. How does it feel that it happens on screen? It's horrible. Years of work.
It's a somber note to end on, but I think it's important. I think it's important, like I said, that it's a lot of posturing, and people in power are doing this and politically posturing for their own benefit. And at the end of the day, this poor woman, I think that last clip hit the hardest, where years of work, she probably worked really hard, sacrificed a ton to build and start what looked like a little boutique clothing store. And in the blink of an eye, because for some reason those in power just don't care, it's all gone. So it's, and people will say, oh, don't feel bad for her, there's insurance. And it's like, it's not that easy. Everyone thinks insurance is this magic wand that's going to bring everything back. And it's like, she could be out of business because insurance doesn't pay out for months. And it's not easy to get insurance money. They don't pay immediately. They have to send people out. It's a long process. She may need that revenue to pay for her mortgage or her rent or her kid's school. And people, they unleashed this environment where bad actors felt emboldened to do this. And this is the result. Los Angelinos got clobbered. And that's the saddest part of all this, is at the end of the day, while they're all fighting over ICE raids and protests and stuff like that, this is the end result. The people get screwed. So sorry, that's a somber way to kind of fix it or kind of finish the show. But I think that's what I want people to kind of walk away from this episode with, is we all get wrapped up in the we all get wrapped up in the news and the inflammatory images and stuff like that, and we all throw it around. But I think we have to all start, if we're going to fix anything, especially in California, or anything in this country. I think we all have to kind of take a step back and think about the humanitarian side of it and go, these people are doing it. The people in power are doing it because of their own personal things. Gavin Newsom's doing it because he wants to run for president. Karen Bass is doing it because she wants to get the next rung up the ladder. And at the end of the day, this poor woman lost her business. So that's my final thoughts. For anything to add to that?
I want to clarify. So that video was looting because the police were distracted elsewhere. People took advantage of an opportunity to go in and
get it was yeah, it's when LAPD is stretched that thin and there's so much chaos going on, it's not shocking that people took advantage, because they knew smash and grabs. Again, coming back to what we said at the top or earlier in the episode, Gavin Newsom doesn't want to fund Prop 36, which was supposed to stop stuff like this. But when there's not as many police and they're overwhelmed, looters take advantage. I mean, we saw there was an Adidas store, and I'm not going to sit here and feel sad for Adidas or Jordans or whatever. But that was looted. CVS, all these places were. I mean, that poor guy was the jeweler. His, how long had that shop been in his family? That guy just looked like he was in shock.
Right, and he probably already dealt with such blows for COVID, and then he got through that, and now this. It's like he just wants to catch a break and feed his family.
Yeah, someone said, why would she even reopen again anyway? Why would you
True.
reopen in downtown?
True.
You could, if you do reopen, you could probably go somewhere like Glendale, or just go down the 5 and go to Orange County. It's much nicer down in Orange
Where
County.
Lisa's, out of control.
So, all right, that's our episode for today. We covered a lot of ground. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us, and all the people who tuned in on the chat. If you like this episode, make sure you like, share, subscribe, review. That helps the algorithm, helps people find us. Share with anybody you know. That is the best way to support the show. That is 100% free. We'll see you on the next one. Later.